Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Liz Trotter. Our guest today is Matt Ricketts, and this is Smart Business Moves.
Hola, y'all.
Hi.
Matt, how in the world are you?
Doing great. Just got back into town at midnight last night, and full day, but it was fun. I love a busy day.
We haven't had you on in a long time.
Yeah.
So looking forward to getting caught up here.
Yeah.
And you got in at midnight last night, Matt? You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. I was at Tommy Mello's event this week. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Tommy Mello. I'm sure a lot of people are. He's got a coaching program called Home Service Freedom. I went to the regional event down in Phoenix. Just a lot of information. It's really interesting to see these other trades really professionalizing. So we talk a lot about, I've been talking to you guys about professionalizing the industry for, I feel like, a better part of a decade. There's Mark Baker. I talked to him about professionalizing the industry. We chat offline quite a bit. And they're doing it. Like,
give us some examples.
Garage doors. Well, I mean, think about your experience with like the trades 10 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. When you needed to hire a plumber, what was that like? What was the experience like? I can tell you right now that I hired Hoffman Brothers to do some work for me around my house the other day, and I ended up signing up for a subscription for them to send me my filters, and they're just so how they're going to generate more money off of every interaction. And I was happy to spend $1,000 because, it was a great experience. I booked it online. I sent pictures of what was broken. They came with the right parts because I gave them the exact information in advance, so I didn't have to wait to get it fixed. And then they were here. They're like, well, we already did a service call and our minimum is X. Like, do you want to do something else? So I actually had them fix something else that was like kind of bothering me about the house. So, happily spend $1,000, but that company's $120 million plumbing company. 10 years ago, Chris Hoffman and that company, he took it over from his dad, and $1 million company, which, think about it, parts and materials, right? The labor side, they were smaller than my company is today. On the labor side, they're in this massive, they're probably going to do 200 million this year. And they're not PE, that's not private equity. That is a family-owned generational business that is very sophisticated in how that they run their operation and just, operational excellence throughout their entire organization. They have their own training center where they can turn a tech from someone off the street in a matter of months, and they can get a plumbing tech out making money in, it used to take years, and now they've got that done. But anyway, at this event, there's a lot of companies like that. There's also companies that are doing $1 million trying to figure it out, just like all the rest of us in the house cleaning industry, and a lot of trades that are similar to ours in terms of that are very labor driven and don't have a lot of things to sell outside of that. There was chimney sweeps there, but a lot of those companies, they figured out how to be $10-20 million companies. That's actually not that uncommon. And that, I don't know any $10 million house cleaning companies yet. You guys know anybody yet? I know a couple that are getting close. Family with multiple locations.
Yeah.
I know a couple.
But
they're getting there.
In a relative sense, though, there's other verticals in the home service verticals that are scaling, more companies doing more revenue than what you see in home services. So, in residential cleaning. Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
You've got to be learning something. You're hanging out with people that are doing what, a lot of house cleaning companies aspire to do. What's the secret sauce?
I still think there's the issue of that. It's the barriers to entry are still low, that people underprice their service. They're not creating enough value to get the price that they want. We talked a little bit about brand. I think brand matters, investing in your brand. If you roll up in a ratty vehicle that looks like it's falling apart, and your tools are crumbly, and all your communication is lacking, and you're not giving them a great experience, why should they pay you a good price, right? If you can give them an A+ experience where they booked online, like you had on point communication throughout the whole thing, your people show up in a pristine uniform with clean tools, all their tools and their kit are branded, I mean, and they show up when they were supposed to show up. There's no excuses. All of that stuff is your brand, right? That's like who you are. And people mistake their brand for their logo, and they're both, right? They're all kind of interrelated, but that's part of it, I think. And there's a lot of people that, I mean, I've had great employees of mine that have gone out and started cleaning companies, right? And I'm really happy for them, but they'll get to like 50 employees and it all falls apart. So I think we froze up here. Like they'll get to 50 employees and they hire their first people and they're not charging enough. They don't have enough systems in place. So they basically built a job for themselves. So I think price matters. I think our industry has a long way to go in terms of like where price should be, where price could be. And I think that operational excellence is lacking still. I think we oftentimes think good enough is good enough, and the consumers deserve more. If you're gonna charge a premium, you're gonna need to do it. So I think as an industry, we all should be pushing each other a little harder to, to deliver higher levels of service, to run better operations, to deliver on our promises, because one bad apple makes us all look bad. I think, and we should be helping each other. I think what I also saw is they're all helping each other. They're very collaborative in terms of like, there's plenty of room for everybody. I think sometimes people are scared to share as if there's not enough business. And I can tell you, here's my take on St. Louis. St. Louis is not a huge market, but I believe there's over 100,000 homes that would be qualified to use our services in St. Louis. And we only have 1% of that. We don't have market share. We have 1%, maybe. And maybe I'm being generous. Maybe there's 200,000. Maybe we have 0.5%. You don't think there's enough business to go around, and we could all be making more money? So I think we all need to be lifting each other up, sharing. I think that's becoming more normal, right? But I see them doing that really well in the trades, and they're not scared to share information, share best practices. And I think technology is a huge part of it. A lot of them are on service. Is a big part of it. Technology is a huge piece of what people are not investing in this industry.
Wow.
So go ahead, Tom.
No, I'm just wondering where do you see it going? Do you think that the transformation you see in some of these other home service verticals that we'll see it in the house cleaning industry?
I do. I think we have to be better managers of our businesses, though. We have to professionalize the management of our businesses. Scale helps. So one of the things that is missing, and we're all kind of working in our little fractured silos, and it's really hard to have all the things that you need, like when you're a $4 million business, or I know some of you are a $500,000 business, and it's like, it's hard to have all the things you need, like HR and marketing and all the things, right? And all of that gets easier with scale. And I don't even know what scale is. Like we have a budget for 4.6 million this year. That's our kind of goal. We've got a run rate now of 4.2, and I don't consider that like anywhere near the scale to do the things that we need to do. But we are professionalizing the management in our company. We've adopted EOS, like Traction. If you've read the book, it's been around forever. And I remember there were years ago when people told me to read it, and I read it, and I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, why do all this? I was joking with Tom on another call about budgets. I was like, why should I have a budget? That's like restrictive. It like makes my skin crawl to tell me what to do. You're going to tell me how to spend my money? I'm going to do what I want. But having a budget, having a scorecard, that's resource planning. That's telling you how much you have as far as like when you need to hire a tech and when you need to buy a car and all whatever resources you need. And Tom's a logistics guy. He came out of New York logistics, and he probably told the story before. But I mean, that's what budgeting is. It's not just like, it's not looking at what happened after the fact. You do need to do that too, but it's good realistic planning to tell you where you're going to end up. And then and then managing all of the things to get there. Like, what are the KPIs? What are the levers that I have to, affect that resource plan that I did? Man, these other businesses are so much more sophisticated financially. Like, that's another thing. Like, just, I'm not even gonna get into all that. Like, some of it's over my head. Like, like the word EBITDA is thrown around like crazy, and but they're squeezing profit out of things that we don't even think about. I mean, it's like they're squeezing profit out of how they buy a piece of equipment and where it goes on the balance sheet. And without getting into all that, I know like that might not even be a thing people even think about as their balance sheet in this industry. It's just like, I could tell you until a year ago, I didn't even care. I got a better accountant, and he helped me like rethink some of that. But
it's worth thinking about, though. I mean, we talk about the evolution and the difference between growth and scale, and when you're just starting out, you got to figure out where to get a vacuum cleaner and how to clean a house and where to find a house to clean. And as you get bigger, the priorities, the projects change, and the things that you have to do to take it to another level change. And eventually you need very sophisticated financial people, and financial statements matter. And
who you are has to change, though. Like, I can't be the same person I was 5 years ago. Like, I have like invested a lot in personal growth and personal development. Like, you cannot be the same person you were to lead a company like that. And I envy some of you that are better at the culture stuff than I am. Like, some of you guys, if you had some of the technical skills I had, and I had some of like your soft skills, oh my God, I'd be 5 times the size. So I'm working on that personally to improve my soft skills and like to get better at that stuff. So yeah, you have to be a different leader than you were. I used to take this from a military approach. Like, I came out of aviation, and I was like, we're going to do things by the manual, and like, we're going to, the rules are the rules. And, of course the rules are the rules, and the process are the processes, but like, just, meeting people where they're at is a lot more important, and lifting them up. I'm I could have listened to Liz years ago. She told me this stuff, but yeah, you have to change as a leader too, and always be developing new skills. And that's important. So not just all those hard skills matter, but also being a better leader matters a lot.
All right. So you mentioned, so I know we're going to talk about creating a culture of leadership, accountability. You're going to talk about your pods a little bit, which I'm super excited about. Also, I can't wait for you to show your vehicle. So awesome. But you said that one of the industries that you had seen was chimney sweeps. Chimney sweeps doing, did you say 100 million, 10 million? What'd you say?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know that there's a guy, Mark Stoner, out of Nashville that has probably like a $30-40 million chimney sweep company. Maybe he's not out of Nashville. He's out of Tennessee somewhere. And I think
got to be someplace with a lot of fireplaces.
Yeah. You don't think of it as
Mary
a southern
Poppins
thing.
I know. I'm like, that market cannot be that huge. I mean, not everybody has fire. We all have houses. We don't all have fireplaces. So, like, what are they doing there, Matt? What's the thing
So
there?
I think Mark wrote a book called Blue Collar Gold. I'd have to be repurposing a lot of it, but professional management, like getting more out of the sale, selling instead of. Here's the problem with that industry, and typically up until recently was like they didn't have CRMs and databases, and every time they had to do a sale, like they'd be selling again next year. Now they have people on service plans, and like there's an expectation you're going to come out twice a year, and that doesn't seem like a big deal. Like, we think about that because we come out all the time, but a lot of industries, you're just waiting for them to call. You're waiting for your phone to ring. So they've taken maybe pages off of what we do, and getting more high frequency recurring out of these customers and these jobs, and they've taken the approach of selling safety. It's not safe to like let the creosote build up in your chimneys. The garage door guys are really selling safety, because if you look at a manual, like I was installing a garage door opener, and on the manual, like setting up the garage door opener, it was like risk of injury or death. It was like 10 times in like the first page of just setting up the garage door opener. And I was thinking about it. I was like, is there a more dangerous thing in my house other than my furnaces, right? Like those could, you could, poison yourself if they're not treated well or running well.
You've got electrical systems in there. You can electrocute yourself. You can, there's a
heavy, they're heavy. If you don't have the safety sensors right, they could hurt a child. I mean, there was a time where like America didn't care about these things. You didn't even have those little safety sensors that we all take for granted running across the ground.
I think more people. I think more people probably. Wouldn't you think more people die falling in the bathtub though than getting hit with a garage door?
Yeah.
Probably, but like
it's good marketing. It's excellent marketing. Put the fear of God in everybody.
Right.
Stay away from that garage door. Hire a pro.
And it actually worked because look, Matt's like, man, I don't have anything.
I wouldn't touch that spring. Look, I know a lot about physics, and I wouldn't touch that spring. Think about how much coiled force is in that spring on your garage door. I had my spring come off once, and I was looking online on how to, like, this is like I was in my 20s, and I was like going online for the wrench on how to do that, and like I was like, no, this is, even then I read it, I was like, oh, okay, that thing goes off and you could die, right? Like, I'll leave that to the guy.
I have done that before. When you were telling me the story earlier, I was like, yeah, I've done that a couple of times, and both times it was like I could really mess myself up if I wasn't careful. Because it takes a really big wrench, and if it slips, it would hit you in the head and make a big mess.
Laugh because I'm like, I'm an accumulation of scars and injuries from bad decisions and sports and things like that. So like, I definitely think through those things now. Like, I've got this big open shoulder surgery scar from years of mistreating my shoulder. I'm like, certainly don't need any new scars from messing around with garage doors. So, I'll pay those people. But they've been able to tell a story about like when they come in, like we're going to use these rollers. They're better than this, and they're going to upsell on this. They're gonna have good, better, best. And if you like try and leave there without doing a thing, be like, you've got to sign a waiver that like, hey, like you refuse to do this repair, and like, we don't want it. You're not taking responsibility. So, like,
may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying like you have to use tactics like that. So some of their sales tactics, they would not work for our industry. Like I've had this conversation. Robin Murphy and I talked about it. Like, you can't sell like they sell. Like, we have to like always have the utmost trust. And I know that they don't believe that is in their nature to be, it's not trustworthy, but like you can never do a hard sale in this industry. I don't think
you don't want the electrostatic spray disinfectant. Well, here, you're going to have to sign this waiver because if somebody catches Ebola, we don't want to be responsible.
Yeah. So that kind of sale doesn't work, but think of it like this. You get an objection on, so the most common objection, what is the most common objection probably people throw up when getting this? There's probably two that I can think of.
For house
cleaning? I gotta ask my spouse or the price, right?
Yep, and look.
So let's just talk about the spouse one, right? So we've always gone, and I'll give you an objection tip on this that we use that's very effective, and you can throw this in. So customer says, I've got to talk to my significant other. Absolutely. Definitely talk to them. Here's what we can do though for you, and it might make it even easier to have that conversation. If you really are interested, we can get you scheduled. You'll get your online booking portal. You'll be able to show them all the details. They'll have a login, you'll have a login, and you can show them your schedule, price, everything will make more sense. And if you want to cancel, just reply to that email, cancel. We don't charge you anything, but you'll have it all set up for you. Does that sound good? And then if they say no, be like, all right, cool. Let's finalize a couple of things and we'll get a little bit more information for you. Just in case. So if they've already said no, just in case, the next available thing we have is next Thursday. Before that sells, I just want to let you know that probably will sell out. I mean, it's a little bit of pressure, but we'll ask twice before we're going to let them get off the phone. I mean, so we're going to make sure that we ask for that sale, even if they said they want to talk to somebody else. That's fine. We understand. So that's an example like where that is a little bit of pressure, but it's not. If they really just want to get off the phone, they're going to get off the phone. If the objection is just they want to think about it more, well, they can think about it more, but they have it booked and they can stop spending their time looking for somebody. So we put a little bit of work into coaching our sales and working on those things, and not as much as them. Most of them, man, there's an AI tool that they're using. They're going in with an iPad with all of their pricing, and that iPad is recording their conversation. And then it's giving them AI suggestions on things like that. And like, there's data that shows the longer they can stay in that house, there's a point where it diminishes, right? But the longer there's like a curve where like the longer they can stay in that house. So if they're there 30 minutes, the close rate's 20%. If they're there an hour, the close rate's like 60%. If they're an hour and 14 minutes is like the sweet spot. They're going to have an 80% close rate on, anyway, just they're looking at everything. They're taking a very, very data-driven approach into every aspect of their business where that they can make changes. For most of us, we haven't optimized enough things that we need to do that. We just need to focus on cleaning the house, getting paid. But I can tell you, once you're past that stage and you need to be, thinking about how can I make more money off the work I already have, right? Because I think we're going into a year where it's going to be a little tougher. Our theme for this year, so we have themes for my business. Our theme for this year is operational excellence, like diving into like being good at every aspect of the business, getting better, and driving that down to the techs and like having them own that through the organization, which is really what this PODS conversation is about. But our theme this year is operational excellence. And, Tom's drilled that idea into my head for many conversations, many years, that you can't get better unless you're really good at what you do to start with. Don't try and do 10 things at once. Don't go into new markets. Like I thought this year was going to be about, we're going to open a new market in Nashville. No, we're not doing that this year. We're going to make sure we're really, really, really good at what we do first before we even think about that. So if anybody's in Nashville, we're not going there next year. Probably not even like, so we're not doing
business, y'all.
There's plenty of room for everybody, but we're not doing that this year. We're going to focus on being really, really good at what we're doing. And, operational excellence is the story of the year.
Liz, your the event that you're doing with the foundation's
the foundation's event?
Yeah, the big one, the one in not the big one. They're both big. They're both awesome, but I can't think of the name. The graduate level foundation
scale. That's
scale. Thank you. Yeah. I saw Scott Wozniak, one of your presenters that's going to be there. I saw him speak about 3 weeks ago, and he talks about how he learned a lot of what he teaches at Chick-fil-A. He worked at Chick-fil-A and was one of the key people in building their culture, and says, does a whole presentation on building raving fans out of your customers. Mm-hmm. He says at the end of the day, it's operational excellence. He talks about all of the things that go into, having quality food. It starts with the food has to be awesome, and just all of the quality checks they have on. It's like a 16-point checklist on a chicken sandwich. You got to make sure the pickles are on there right. You can't have the pickles on top of each other. They say the pickles are supposed to be dating, not mating. And it's like it's a 16-point checklist on a chicken sandwich. And he does work for McDonald's too. They've hired him. And McDonald's, they've got all the resources in the world, but they haven't been able to get the operational excellence thing. There's a website, McBroken.com, that tracks the soft serve ice cream machines. And about any point in time, about 15% of all the soft serve ice cream machines at McDonald's are broken.
Yes. Or claim to be broken so they don't have to make you ice cream.
Yeah, or they don't have to clean them, whatever. Yeah. And it's just kind of a comparison of what's the difference between, you can do the marketing and the branding and all of it's necessary, but it's not the full story. At the end of the day, to pull it all together and take it to another level, you have to have excellent operations. And he uses the term operational excellence.
Well, last year at Scale, we had 5 different presenters, same as this year, but there were 2 themes that all thought, none of these people knew each other. They didn't coordinate, right? But they all had 2 themes. And one was operational excellence. You are not going to scale your business if you don't have operational excellence. You might grow and then you're going to crash, and then you could grow again and you're going to crash, but you cannot scale your business if you don't have operational excellence. That was the first. And the second one was you have to have a team. You have to have a good team. And if you have a good team, it's not happening. I don't care. The minute you lose that one key person that's so important in your office, everything's crumbling. So it's not about a person. It's not you. No matter how amazing you are, you're not enough. You have to have a great team. Those two themes, every single presenter. I'm expecting the same thing this year. At least those two themes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that might be a good segue. Bring up the picture of the dolphins and talk about this.
Yeah.
So kind of like what we're talking about with what you're describing is what we're trying to do with this. So why do we have a picture of a dolphin up here? First off, they're pretty cool. My kindergarten teacher loved dolphins, but they're smart. They're fun. They're great
Wait a minute, your
communicators.
kindergarten teacher?
Yeah, she was like a big fan of dolphins, and so whenever I was a kid, I always liked dolphins too. Like, you're introduced to a cool animal when you're a kid, and you're like, oh, this is really fun. And she talked about them all the time, how they were smart. That they're really fun animals. They're social. They're great communicators, and they get things done as a team. They live in small groups called PODS, and we're introducing this idea of PODS at Better Life Maids. So the pod is basically the team within the team. It's the company within the company. So dolphins are social animals, but they're also really fierce as well. So in business, we always want to be sharks, right? We want to go out and hunt and kill and things like that. But that doesn't work for our industry. We got to be collaborative. Sharks are actually scared of dolphins. Not an individual dolphin, but the pods, they won't mess with. If there's a group of dolphins around, 3 or more, shark won't mess with them, right? So the idea is the team is stronger than the fiercest apex predator. So as a group in our company, we can create these little strong groups. And it's a good analogy for the kind of people we want in our company too, right? We want people that are collaborative, right? We don't want sharks. They're both, sharks and dolphins, they're both gray. They both have elongated bodies. They swim in the water. But that's about as close as we really want to each other in terms of how we'd want to be, near those people, right? So sharks are solitary. They don't work well with others. They're not team players, and they'll eat you if you're not careful. In fact, I was actually, and sharks are amazing animals too for their own reasons. If anybody's a big shark fan, I don't want to offend you. I'm kidding. But I was at an event with Paul DeGelder from Shark Week up in Detroit last week. EO Detroit invited me up there to come hear him speak. I'm going to do some work on the board for EO next year. So I got invited up to hear him speak. And the guy got his arm and his leg bitten off by a shark, but he still has amazing respect, for them. So they're great creatures on their own, but I wouldn't want to work with one. I certainly wouldn't want to, end up swimming with them. But
if you ever see the documentary Sharknado, you'll understand.
That's it. So part of what we're doing with this, I'm going to probably switch my share over to a map in Maids Central here. So give me a second here to change over. Part of what we're doing is we want to create, I'll go to this screen here. And then once I'm on that screen, what we're trying to do is create pods that are geographically located near where people live and where they work already. So if you, let's see, where am I at here?
They're so pretty, Matt.
Oh, thanks. I think.
So pretty.
Oh, wrong one. Here we go. So if you look at the area we cover, right, we're covering these big areas, and Maids Central makes this really kind of a unique thing we can do. So we already have zones that are defined in Maids Central. Maids Central allows you to create satellite offices, and we can assign employees to individual satellite offices. We're actually going to use these vans as mobile offices where there's going to be meetings once a week, and every day of the week in a certain part of town, there'll be one of our vans having a meetup. But at any given time, those vans will be stocked with vacuums, equipment, tools to fix things, and we're elevating our trainers to a new position called field supervisor, where they're given a chance to lead and run a small team within the company, getting management experience for up to 12 employees, running a weekly meeting, giving them, elevating them and elevating their ability to lead others. And, titles matter, right? So trainer, they put that on a resume, they put that on LinkedIn. That doesn't mean a lot to somebody outside of your company, unless they really know your company well and they know that you run a really excellent company. I have a friend that told me, like, whenever he sees people that have our resumes, that he likes to hire them for his car wash. I'm like, well, stop doing that. They make great supervisors. So, I'll keep finding them. I'm like, oh, great. So, but that's a compliment, right? It means you've got a good training program. You're elevating people. So this kind of formalizes it. So, we switched to solos during the pandemic to kind of, again, create some efficiency in the way we schedule. Well, this is about efficiency too, right? So if they're having a meeting here, or let's say, I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, but if let's say that they're way out here, we want to have a meeting out here instead of our office is way down here. It doesn't look like a lot on a little map right here, but this is 25 miles from here to there, maybe, so we can have a pod meeting out this way for the folks that live out here, or even do it here and kind of bring some more folks together, but they don't have to drive across certain parts of town that have a lot of traffic. We anticipate having a West pod meeting. So we're actually rolling this out next week. The first week that we were going to roll it out this week. We've had a series of snow days in St. Louis, so pushed it back. Our all company meeting is next Wednesday. We'll roll out the vans, roll out the concept. Their first pod meetings will be the week after next. So, we believe that it actually will pay for the vans in terms of reduced inefficiencies of them driving back to the office and resupplying. And, we're not saying that it, fully pays for it, but the vans are also a brand experience for your brand in real life, right? Like, it's more eyeballs on your brand.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying ours are A+. I think we did a good job. I think, there's companies out there that do amazing work on that. We think it's good. But there's a future where this evolves and we try and get better with each iteration. So this is our first pass at it. And I think it's going to do a few things. Again, it's going to improve culture. We're going to push that down to these weekly pod meetings where these technicians all have to go over their weekly scorecard with their team. And if they fell below a certain score, they just have to just ask the team for help. And, hey, I fell below on this, it's an accountability kind of group for them within the company. It gives us a better way to decimate information. And we do a lot with Slack now. I'm sure a lot of you that are on solos do the same. But right now, when our team members come in for supplies, they just kind of sneak into the warehouse, sneak out. We don't actually have like a dispatcher back there, like where they can, regulate stuff like that. So some days we'll be like, where did all the laundry go? Like somebody took like 10 bundles. So we'll be able to control, some of that better as well. Like that's a whole nother issue, right? But they won't need to take that much because they shouldn't be taking a month's worth. They should be taking a week's worth, right? So a lot of little issues and things like that. So open it up from here. Like that's a high level. There's a lot more to it, but
I have some questions, Matt. So how many people do you envision being as part of a pod?
10 is kind of like the sweet spot where I think you start really, like, much bigger than that. You start to lose some familiarity with people, and these field supervisors are going to have to be the ones doing a lot more of their reviews. So, Connie from my office does about 45, 50 reviews right now. So, that's one a week that she's like, at least, but, sometimes they stack up and, so they're going to be doing those, and, 10's a really good number, but we might stretch it to 15 until we break, like if a pod's going to grow. So let me see if I have, I don't think I have, shoot. I thought I opened it up here. Maybe it's right here. Well, let me just search for it. What I'm looking for is the accountability chart that has it. So accountability chart is kind of like your org chart, right? So we we built this into our upcoming org chart, and here it is. So we believe 10, so to long answer your question, 10 is kind of a good number, but we will stretch it out to 12. So we're going to start with 4, but we could probably go to 5 pretty quickly, but I don't have 5 trainers or 5 field supervisors at the time. So, we're going to deal with what we have.
Cool. You answered another one of my questions was, were they going to be doing reviews? Do you have kind of an overview of the job description? It sounds like they'll be handing out supplies.
I do. I don't think I have that prepared. I think I have like the project, kind of what they're going to be trained on. We're going to have, all of them are going to do the PHC cleaning. Is that Bree's? I get it confused in my mind.
PHC is the online course.
Okay. So they're all
The
we all
RT
have done that.
certification or the ISSA residential
Okay.
certification online.
Okay, so they all have that now. They're going to all need to do
The one you helped write, Matt.
Yes, I know. Sorry. They all do that one now, but then they all are going to do the more technical one. So I've got 2 of the 4 that have gone through the oh God, I can never get them all straight. HCT. That's why we shouldn't have all these acronyms. They like we're going to teach them how to run a meeting. So initially, Amanda, who's our field supervisor, our field manager, her title got moved to manager, and she's from field supervisor with us. She's going to basically go around and help run these until they're all up to speed on it. We're going to give them some more training on how to communicate effectively. They'll get some training on conflict resolution. We've got to get them all a credit card. So we want them to be problem solvers in the field. So if one of their team members in their pod has a problem, they can go to the store. Let's say a coffee maker's broke out in the field, like, they broke something. They can go run to Target and take care of it, right? They'll have that. They'll be defined a slightly different uniform. They'll have a pink polo instead of the pink t-shirts. Let's see, what else?
You mentioned there's a weekly meeting.
Yep.
Is that done in person or do they do it electronically?
So we're going to create an address for where each pod is going to have a satellite office. We're going to pretty much use Walmart parking lots off of major highways, basically. So Walmart tends to actually be very conveniently located in St. Louis, right off the highway. You can pull right off. There's either a Walmart or a Sam's Club. We're going to kind of use their parking lots for these. And a lot of them have fast food restaurants on the lot there. So like a Culver's or something like that, where we can buy everyone a coffee. So the location is going to be one of these places where it's going to be set, and it'll be set in the software inside of Maids Central with a satellite office that'll be kind of set. But if we need to move the satellite office because they tell us, hey, I can't imagine they're going to have a problem with us coming in and buying coffee for all of our employees, once a week. So I think they'll be happy with it. And we're not going to just do it at a fast food restaurant that's not sitting on one of these lots that doesn't have a lot of extra parking. So we're trying to be thoughtful of the kind of places we would do it.
So do you actually go inside of the coffee place and everybody sits down there?
If it's cold, we'll try and go inside. If it's a nice day, we'll stand around the vans and unload and just do it. Maybe the pod 10 is a pod 5, like where there's in and out of there in 5 minutes to get their stuff. But the idea would be to go inside of like Chick-fil-A or Culver's or wherever and get a coffee, have a quick little powwow. 10 people is, that's not overwhelming to that business. They can handle that. And we might buy them breakfast once in a while too. I mean, it's meant to be kind of just a good chance to connect and push down some culture. So in person at these locations all over town. So, back to the map, like, oops, keep going the wrong one. So Red Pod will be somewhere in here, but not at our office, because our office, we just don't have the parking to do it. Like I can't bring 10 extra people in the morning at our office. The city pod will, try and do something here. So it doesn't look like it's a lot further, but for those of them that live in the city, not having to brave the traffic in and out, and we have, close to 300 customers in the city. So, a good size of our pod will be right here. So somewhere right around here, there's a Target off of 44 in Hampton. We'll do something there. Up this way towards Olivet, there's a good amount of business that's along this corridor right here off of 170. So they're going to be based off of like easy access points to, like, you kind of look at the map and you look at like where all this density is. It builds up along, like, oh, there's a highway here. Interesting, right? Like, oh, there's this artery right here, and there's a lot of traffic along this artery right here. A lot of your business does build up along those arteries. A lot of housing is developed along those things. So it'll be where the geography is convenient for the team members. And you can map that in Maids Central. I don't have it on this map because it has customer data kind of too prevalent to share publicly, but you can kind of do heat maps and look at where your employees lived compared to where customers are. And we'll be basically finishing that this week and picking out the location for these pods and assigning everybody in the next week. So,
and will they? So it sounds like they're going to have one meeting a week. What will the pod supervisors do the other days?
So great question. So they're going to have the vans fully stocked. They will have to so there'll be meetings 4 days a week. Wednesdays they won't have a pod meeting because that's going to be, all of them will come to the office for their kind of all together meeting with
all the pod leaders.
Yeah. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday, at least initially, is when these will all be. And so their vans will be stocked though. So if people need things, and they're only going to be scheduled to about 80% capacity so that they can go help people at the end of the other day, stop in and push other team members through. And again, that builds culture when somebody's behind and they know that they're going to have that. That's the other thing, is that in Maids Central, you can just run a filter on the schedule and find all the people in that pod and see who's close by to help a lot easier. When team members fall behind, we rely on that a little bit. Like, so we schedule 2 houses a day, and some people want to do 3, but there's days where somebody calls in and then how do you figure out how to do that last house? So the pod leader will have some extra capacity on their schedule, or it'll get put on someone else's schedule and they'll go help. But if somebody needs something, that extra 20% of flex time that we're kind of building into their schedule, if they need to run to the store or help somebody with a supply, they don't have to drive all the way back to the office. And maybe we do a lot with Uber right now to get, like, when somebody forgets something, we don't want them driving back to the office. Quick tip, it's like $15. It's a lot cheaper than somebody driving there and back to your office when you're paying them $19 an hour. So everybody get an Uber account for your business. It's super cheap to move supplies around. The Uber drivers are like, they're not huge fans of it, but
No.
they don't want to do it. They don't have to pick up the job if they don't want it. So
yeah, they don't necessarily love it.
I'll tell you a funny story about this. I was in Phoenix again for that event. And I was cold in, like, you're at a thing. And I didn't bring my sweater. I left it at my aunt's house, who lives in Phoenix. I went and watched the Chiefs game at her house. They're from Kansas City originally, and I left my sweater there. And I told her, hey, I'm going to send an Uber to go pick my sweater up. I'm cold at this event, because I was going to go out to dinner with her and grab it later anyway. She laughed. She's like, all right, fine. Lady picks it up, and she's like, and we are far out. Like, if you know Phoenix at all, like, my aunt lives like on the city limits of Scottsdale at 52nd and Shea. Like, those are 2 big intersections there. So, we're on Shea Boulevard, but we're at like 130th and Shea. It is like 30 minutes away. And, and the lady gets there and she's like, what did I bring out to you? I was like, a sweater, it's cold. And she like rolled her eyes at me. She's like, oh my God, I thought it was something important. It was a sweater.
She thought she had a heart.
I was like, it was important to me. I mean, so, for $20, I was able to get my sweater instead of being cold all day. So get yourself an Uber account for your business, and you can centralize all of that and ship things to people. But even still, like, the pod leader can decide if they want to do that or if they want to just drop something off for somebody. I mean, A broken vacuum, when you cover as much geography as we do, can really throw things off. So we'll have 4 vehicles stocked all around town at any given time, fully stocked with everything that we would use to clean, cleaning solution to refill people's bottles, really everything that we would need. So
will your pod leaders drive back at the end of the day and drop off laundry, broken vacuums, restock for the next day? How will that
we're
work?
still working out how often. They definitely need to do, like, the day that they have their pod 10 meeting, they would need to come back at the end of that day and restock.
Because they have all the towels and all their supplies.
So
yeah, but
they
otherwise we're gonna let them take them
that
home.
meeting is where all the supplies are replenished.
Yep. And so instead of coming back to the office, like, there'll be days. And so that, like, let's say you miss your meeting in South County that day. Well, you can't come back. You can't go to the office. We just do not have the parking for a bunch of people to show up at the office in the morning. So then you have to look on the system and see where the next pod, and we're going to announce it every day in Slack. So, okay, I'm going to go to the city. The city is holding a pod. I've got to drive 5 more miles out of my way, but I'm going to do that one because I don't want to wait until my meeting the next week. You've got to go to at least 1 pod meeting a week, ideally yours, so you can build a relationship with your pod. But if you miss yours, there's one every day of the week but Wednesday. And we're going to figure out Wednesdays too.
Do the pod leaders ever stop by a house where you've got a cleaning professional cleaning it and, like, do an inspection while they're there?
So that's not defined yet. We currently have that field manager position for that, but the goal is that they would be able to do inspections, and she wouldn't have to do all of those. Yep.
Yeah, they could swap supplies there as well.
Yep. And there's a lot to this we don't know yet, but we believe we did like a spreadsheet on it. We figured that it would save about 38 minutes of non-productive time a week that we're paying for. And we are commissioned, so you could argue, oh, well, you don't really pay for that, but you do, because that's lost opportunity for them to either clean or that it dilutes what their pay looks like, right? So we figured if this meeting just is like, 15 minutes with, like, the meeting plus, like, a resupply, a lot of them come back more than once. It's about 38 minutes that we figured per employee. About, let's say it's about $600 or $700 a week that it saves us in labor. But if it increases morale because their average hourly increases, I don't know if I can quantify that, right? Like how do I quantify that? How many impressions do these get? So it's going to cost more than, the vans are about $850, plus insurance. So it's not going to be a revenue neutral thing, but there is some cost savings in terms of, reduced drive time, reduced inefficiencies in the system, increased efficiency for each employee. We already schedule very efficiently, but we schedule a 96% efficiency. But what really happens is we average about 86. And that's because of them driving back to the office and lost efficiency, right? If that can go up 5%, their wages go up 5%. And 5% on $22.50 an hour average, another $1, right? So their average hourly looks better. They feel better about the job, even though they didn't make any more money on their final check. Hopefully it does all those things for us, and it does it for them too. It makes their life better, and that they're not driving back and forth to the office. They're more connected to their team and to the culture of the company. A lot of things we don't know yet.
Do you see the pod leaders being involved with, like, the interview hiring process or the training?
Not
No?
yet. They are the trainers. So they do train. And that's why they probably will go back to the office. A lot of, like, our trainers do go back to the office every day anyway, because they're picking up a trainee on their days. So on the days where they don't have trainees, they could, start from home. But most of the time, the trainees come to the office for now. That may change with the pods, where they just meet the trainer at a set location instead. And, I don't know, like, we'll have to ask the trainees if they feel comfortable leaving their car at, like, a Sam's Club. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
it would be, we don't know those things yet. Like, we're still going to figure those out.
Yeah.
As of now, I guess I forgot that trainers do really start from the office most days, because they're picking up a trainee at the office. The trainees for the first 2 weeks start at the office.
Do they have a computer where they could go in and make schedule adjustments, team assignments?
One of our peers on Made Central has they don't have CSRs. So one of my good friends on Made Central has pushed this down to the idea that these folks take support calls from customers, and that's even a little that's a little wild to me. But yeah, that's a possibility to some degree, that this becomes like your support team too. And yeah, like they're going to handle, for this other company, we're not committed to the ship, but they're handling all the quality issues. They're addressing it. They're setting tasks in Made Central for follow-up. And, but yes, all of our trainers right now do have an iPad, with, kind of a preset, menu of things on there, like our training manuals and other things. And Made Central as well.
Evolves, though, their responsibilities could expand.
I think so. I mean, the idea, this all comes from the idea of traction, right? So and I'll stop my share so I can kind of look at you guys, we talk, but we implemented traction about 1.5 years ago at Better Life. And for those of you that are familiar or not familiar, EOS, Gino Wickman wrote a book about it. It's just a management process of how you can run a business, and it works really. It's a recipe, right? Like, those of you that like to, paint your own masterpiece may not love it, but I'm kind of a follow the recipe kind of person. I like structure, and I like being able to look at what's been done and what works. And I don't need to put my own spin on it. I don't need to feel like I was the architect of that. So, but if you do, it may be stifling, but it allows you to elevate the people you already have in leadership by giving them, numbers that they own, right? There's things that they're reporting on each week that they're responsible for. And, you start with your leadership team, and then you bring it down to your field service team, and then you bring it down to your techs. We want traction to be all the way down to the technicians by the end of this quarter, that they own their numbers every single week. The numbers they're responsible for are their quality score, their efficiency, and their productivity. And they can speak to why they have those numbers and how they can improve them.
I love the idea of them having 3 numbers too. I mean, I've always been a huge advocate of them having at least 1, but boy, I love the idea of them having 3. And that they're watching all of those numbers. That's gold. Matt, you were talking about with your pod 10s. Do you have an agenda that you're planning on following for that time frame?
Yeah, and I probably had it somewhere, but
that's a really short amount of time, especially if you're going to need coffee and.
Right. The rough agenda is, well, if you're going to get coffee, you got to get there a little bit before the meeting starts, right? Yeah. So if you want paid coffee on the company, you got to get there. That's kind of the way our quarterly meetings work. Like, we have breakfast, and like the meeting starts at 7:45. If you want to get your plate full, you either wait until the end, or you got to get there by between 7:15 and 7:40, fill your plate, but you're not going to get up in the middle of the meeting. So if you roll in at 7:41 or whatever, just sit down and wait. You'll grab some food on the way out. It'll be a little colder, but the same kind of thing here is we're going to try and make sure these start on time, that they're efficient, and that they're not a time suck of them.
How do you control that? You take all the serving spoons away?
We just get started, and just clap once, clap twice. No, you do some of the speaker techniques where it's like, clap once if you hear me, clap twice if you hear me. Pretty hard to talk if you're clapping, right? You get them all settled in. It's like, all right, everybody settle in, grab food at the end. We're going to get started. And just, you roll on. You let them eat if they've already got a plate, but
I don't know. I think taking the serving spoons is probably genius. That seems so easy. Much faster, much simpler. 7:41, we moved all the spoons.
So next week, we'll have to give that a try. I don't know if anybody on my team is watching, but Connie, if you're watching today, pull the spoons at 7:50 or 7:41, and we're gonna start right on time. for us, there's no perfect with this. Just getting it started is where we are with this, and then we'll refine it over time. The biggest thing is, we had a goal of sub 100% turnover last year, and we fell short of that. And we think that culture and driving that down is a big part of it. I think we ended up about 130%. We actually are up to about 150% right now because we had a little bit of attrition at the beginning of the year. And we really believe that we have a great opportunity for people. We pay well, we offer full benefits, but we're missing just a little magic piece. And, we don't know what it is. We don't know if this is all of it, but, trying to do it all over Slack, there's something missing there. There's, that face-to-face interaction, that connection to the company, it's not there. So,
yeah.
Can you believe how fast an hour goes?
Well, I know we're kind of pushing up on the top of the hour. Anything we gotta?
Yeah, we got a couple of things we should probably share.
Anybody have any questions for Matt? Throw them out there real quick before we get going. You want to go to the events page there, Tom?
Okay.
Or tab, yeah.
So what all we got going on here, Liz?
So it's 2 events. Maybe check out Foundations on the left.
Just register?
Yeah, just hit register. And this is Foundations. It's March 16th.
What? 6 weeks?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I know. It's almost here. If you haven't heard of Foundations, that was when we did Smart Business Moves, Tom, with Olu.
oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that was fun.
I'll tell you what, and I was a foundation graduate, and I think we were probably like 1.6 million at the time, and now here we are, like with a budget of 4.6 million. It's kind of like Vistage, right?
Couldn't have done it without it, right?
Couldn't have done it without. Actually, I do really think it was pretty foundational in terms of my financial education, because I was a grow and fix it all with growth kind of person, and then I'm not going to say I'm as sophisticated as Tom with finances now, but I certainly have a much deeper understanding of my finances because of that experience. So if you're on the fence, I'm not going to say it's going to help you grow like that, but the knowledge is there. It's what you do with it. It's like going to the gym, right? I have a gym membership to Lifetime, and I swim once a week there. It's a $60 swim because I only go once a week.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to talk about swimming, you might as well go to Foundations. There's a huge beach there. You're in a gorgeous mansion.
Heated pool.
Yeah, a heated pool, hot tub. A lot of people take advantage of that. Tom, that's something that we don't talk a lot about, is how gorgeous it is at the mansion, and how many people, the first one that comes to mind, of course, is Sarah.
Do we
Sarah
have those
Mitchell.
pictures? I mean, we've got pictures of people working, but you're hanging out at a beachfront property for an entire week.
Keep going down. I think we do have.
I saw Sarah Mitchell and Ben Ferris at the event in Tommy Mello's event last week, and they've made lifetime friends. I mean, those two with Trisha Lake are about as close as anyone. You will make some really close friendships there too. That's a good point. Like the social aspect of this, being forced into such close proximity with people for a week, it can be a little much, but it's also like it's like college. Like you build some really close friendships with proximity.
It's true. That's right. Like Sarah, Trisha, Ben, they are fast, lifelong friends because of Foundations.
I think they're about as close as any friends I have from college, where you spent like months and months to get
Yeah. And they travel together and they have vacation together. And it's a real strong bonding experience. Well, Tom, we'll have to talk about the rest later because we're past the hour.
We are out of time.
Yeah.
But I have to bounce, guys. I got to take my daughter to piano, so I'll let you guys
Matt,
wrap.
thank you. This was awesome.
Yeah, really.
We're going to have to do this again because we've still got a few things that we wanted to talk about we didn't get to. But
Yeah,
Thank you.
There's a lot of things going on. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you all.
You guys have a good week. We'll see you next
Bye, everybody.
Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.